amnesty scheme expiring on 31st. Basically, Section 128A, the due date for passing of order under Section 73 was, and many of them could not and maybe have filed appeal without any fraudulent intention. If you have any tax demand, first important implementation with regard to such finance bill, ISD registration and mandated RCM clause of. Welcome friends, we are in late March right now, and also in one of my previous discussions in which we have discussed 10 key important areas that needs to be looked into before this year ending, that is March 2025, and the last point was amnesty scheme. The date of amnesty scheme is expiring on 31st March 2025. That is not the actual case. It is to be clarified once again with this discussion that it is not the expiry date, it is the date of payment. And with this discussion, I am going to throw some light on this section 128A. Basically, section 128A came in through a GST Council meeting. During the initial years of GST implementation, there was various dealers faced multiple issues with regard to filing of GST return, collection of tax, payment of tax, taking input tax credit, correctly taking input tax credit, or rather not reversing the ineligible input tax credit. Many of the dealers paid their demands in full. Since the due date for passing of order under Section 73 was way beyond the first 3 years which we are talking about, many of the dealers have paid their entire tax, and many of them could not and maybe have filed appeal against such order, which is pending with the appellate authority. With this amnesty scheme, what the government is trying is that if you have any demand for the initial 3 years, that is from the start of GST implementation in India, that is 1/7/2017 till 31st/3/2020, within this period, if you have any demand or order or notice under Section 73, then you are eligible for a waiver of the interest and penalty amount arising from such orders or notices, provided that tax is paid. One small clarification I want to make: Section 73 is a section where there is no deliberate attempt to make not to pay the tax, or not, falsifyingly claiming input tax credit, or rather not claiming input tax credit as per law. So there has not been any malified intention to defraud the revenue. So Section 73 is such a section where there can be, without any fraudulent intention, if you have any tax demand, interest or penalty, so department will start proceedings under Section 73 for you. And if there is some fraudulent connection with taking of input tax credit or not paying of tax, or any other point or any other provisions or law which has not been met by the dealer with the intention of fraudulently defrauding the revenue, then Section 74 will be initiated. Why I am talking about 73 and 74? Because this amnesty scheme relates to those cases which falls under Section 73 only. Hence, if you have anything, any liability or any order by the department against you with respect to any fraudulent activities with regards to GST, any fraudulently taking input tax credit or not paying the tax to the government, undisputed tax has not been paid to the government, for those cases it is not covered. Now this is for the initial 3 years, as I mentioned, till 31st/3/2020. So hence financial year 17/18, financial year 18/19 and financial year 19/20. The due date of 31st March is for the payment of tax only. So it has been mentioned in Section 128A, and through Circular 238 it has been made clear that if you are paying the tax, if you have such demand, you have to make and pay the tax within 31st March through DRC 03. It is simply payment of tax due date, which is 31st March. Now, for interest and penalty waiver, you have 3 additional months after 31st March to file the requisite form, whichever is applicable to you, that is SPL 01 or SPL 02, till 30th of June 2025, you have time to file the returns, or file the, rather we have to time to file the form SPL1 or SPL02, so that you can take this waiver of interest and penalty which has been given or provided by the government. I just want to mention three important areas of 128A which they are prima facie covering. If you have any notice, though you do not have any order, you have to understand something, that for passing an order under section 73, department needs to start the proceedings by issuing you a either DRC 07A or a so cause notice, where you need to reply and everything, and the proceedings must go on, and then finally order comes under section 73. So it is not mandated that a order is there, so it's not required that an order must be there. So if any notice is there, if any show cause notice is there, if any DRC 07A clarificatory requisition of information is there also, which is leading the department towards 73, they are eligible to take this interest waiver for this initial 3 years period. So here also we have to pay the tax through DRC 03 and you have to file SPL 01. If you have any order, specifically if you have any order against 73 where order has been made and tax demand has not been paid, interest penalty obviously is not paid also, now you have a chance to file SPL 02 and claim this waiver of interest and penalty by paying the tax by 31st March. Here the catch is, while filing this, you cannot or you should not, when an order of 73 is there against you, that order is not should be appealed against and not should be pending in any appellate authority. So if you have filed any appeal against such order, we have to withdraw that appeal, provide that copy of withdrawal to the department during the file of SPL 02 respective. So this is the mandated case for amnesty scheme. If you have paid the tax and you have not filed the waiver also, do not worry, because we have additional 3 months from 31st March 2025 to file SPL1 or SPL02, whichever is applicable to you. So this is our first important discussion for today's session with regard to section 128A, that is the amnesty scheme provided by the government. Now let us move on to the next point, which is provided by the Finance Act 2025, and from April 2025 there are certain implementation of such Finance Act which has been passed by the government. That implementation will start. The first important implementation with regard to such finance bill or the Finance Act is the ISD registration and mandated RCM clause of for ISD with regard to the RCM liability for input tax distributors. So as we all know that for input tax distributor, it is a mandated definition under section 2 subsection 61, where an ISD needs to where you, if you are a dealer and you have multiple GST registrations across the state, and one particular registration is accumulating the credits, you have an option to distribute such credit to the other GSTNs through this ISD registration, which is mandated by law. So you cannot distribute the credit if you do not have the ISD registration. What the law has mandated this time from April 2025. Previously, prior to this Finance Act amendment with regard to ISD, the ISD was supposed to pay RCM or through cash ledger for various RCM notified services or goods, and such distribution for distributing such credit was mandated against such RCM which are paid intrastate. Post Finance Act 2025, RCM also becomes applicable for interstate services which is taken by the ISD or the registered address where the ISD registration has been taken. With this interstate, that is within state, one point, and now the amendment is coming for interstate, from one state to other state. If there are interstate services or goods that you are procuring, you need to pay RCM on it, and such RCM credit will be available for distribution post April or post March 2025 to the subunits or the other registered addresses. So this is the major change that is coming for ISD since April, from April 2025. So here it is important that if any unit who has not taken ISD registration is now supposed to take ISD registration, file GSTR 6 for distribution of credit to the other business units. So we are now concluding this second point on ISD. Hopefully this small discussion has added some value to your compliance segment for GST, and we will be coming up with more and more latest changes, discussions and practical life scenarios through this channel of ours. And if you have any questions, any queries, any feedback, you can write in the comment section and we will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much for a patient listening. Have a very good year ending. Thank you.